Hi there, this is BT Calloway. Welcome to the Simpsons Index. Before we get into the show, I just wanted to tell you about our upcoming project, Pulp Fury Radio, a new podcast anthology series featuring all original stories in classic pulp genres like sci-fi, noir, horror, and fantasy. If you're looking for an escape from the everyday, then you're looking for Pulp Fury Radio. You can find out more at pulpfuryradio.com, with the first episode coming soon to wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, on with the show.
The Simpsons Index, an online spreadsheet that is also a podcast. This is the podcast.
Coming to you out of SideQuest Studios, this is the Simpsons Index, episode 170, the 8th Treehouse of Horror-thon. It's getting spooky up in here, and you might be wondering, why are we doing a Treehouse of Horror-thon not in October? It's because every May, we stole the idea from Worst Episode Ever to celebrate Mayoween, because Halloween rules. Let's celebrate it more. And as always, for Mayoween, I am joined by Jordan Frost.
Hello.
And BT Calloway.
Hello.
But for this special Mayoween, we are joined once again live from San Francisco?
Roughly. Sure.
It's Michael Swaim.
Hello.
Greetings.
That's too scary. You got to knock that shit off.
Yeah.
I can't. I thought in Australia, Halloween was in May. Christmas was on New Year's.
Yeah,
well, it is.
And the hamburgers eat you. That's the deal, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Well, it
wearing
is-
hats on our feet and stuff.
It does make more sense because pumpkins, I know it's autumn right now. It would make more sense to just do it now. But no, instead we do it when it's starting to get really friggin' hot. It's like 30 degrees in October. And yeah, you want to walk around in a giant bulky costume.
Yeah,
Yep.
I did actually see someone who made a jack-o'-lantern out of a pineapple, and it looks awesome because it's all spiky. I'm like, I'm doing that. That's sick.
That does
Yeah.
look great.
Mad
Crazy
Max
hair.
a lantern. Yeah.
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 It makes you wonder if I'd have to check the episode, but if Homer invested in pumpkin futures in Australia, his plan might have worked out.
It might have done.
For sure, definitely.
It feels like we're talking about the Animal Crossing stalk market again.
Yeah.
Bunch of nerds.
Hey, look, it's a legitimate bell making technique. You just got to get on it.
Beach, remember the year that we did watermelon jack-o'-lanterns?
It blew minds.
Yeah, but the problem is watermelons don't last as long as
No.
pumpkins. They only last like a day.
But they look kind of cool when decrepit and kind of moldy, and like the horror itself is getting old and the ravages of age.
No, kids, those are real fruit flies.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, this is the Simpsons Index. This is a podcast where we watch and review 3 episodes of The Simpsons at a time, but there's a twist. Each episode comes from a different decade. And now, as I already said, yeah, we have a biannual Treehouse of Horror-thon, and yeah, that's exactly what we're doing today. And we just started out with a episode that aired last year. This was Season 31, Episode 4, Treehouse of Horror 30. First released in October of 2019. It was directed by Timothy Bailey, not the Australian weatherman. Written by J. Stewart Burns.
Thanks for clarifying that.
For all the confusion in the room.
I feel like for an Australian, though, that is very specific. Like, you would
Yeah.
need to make that,
Yeah.
concession
Yeah.
because, like, the business of the brolly is famous. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Anyway, enough with our niche Australian references. Let's get into some niche horror American references. What do we think of this one?
Well, as F. Scott Fitzgerald once said, not the Australian weatherman.
yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
Let's see. What's my other canned joke I had prepared that I have to get out of my system? Then we'll be ready to roll. Oh, yeah. I just Googled Simpsons XXX, and I got a very different kind of video.
Oh,
Dear.
Incidentally, has anyone on this pod talked about the Simpsons porn? And then I'm done derailing us. I really promise.
I'm sure we've thought about it.
We haven't properly reviewed it.
It's just you don't need to, but it's people covered in yellow body paint. So it becomes like, much like the watermelon a lantern, it quickly becomes more disturbing than they even intended it to be.
Do they have?
Yeah. Question you?
Yeah. Excuse me, Mr. Swaim.
Yeah.
Do they have the weird, like, half cut, like, ping pong ball cut in half stuck onto their eyes?
You nailed it. Ping pong balls.
Okay.
It's the only way to know.
All right.
I am not happy with that.
My subconscious knew. Yeah.
To answer your question, Elliot, I thought it sucked. I thought it sucked hard.
yeah, I wrote down the notes, just dumb and boring. So
That
Yeah.
pretty much covers it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, look, I because I've done a few of these Treehouse ones now.
You poor bastard.
Yeah. The thing I found is that when you're watching the classic tree houses, they take maybe like a concept and just like explore the horror. And I know we're going to get into that a bit, but this one really, the later tree houses seem to be more about what is pop culture.
Yep.
Let's just write an episode about that.
let's just hit those beats,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter if it makes any sense or is funny or scary or a parody of anything.
And sometimes don't even need to like relate to the source material at all. We're just going to like visually imply that this is based on Stranger Things or Shape of Water or whatever, and just write something completely different.
Yeah, no, I keep coming back to that review that we read about when The Simpsons like did a parody of the Wii, and was just like, yeah, they don't really understand why it's popular. They just understand it's a thing.
And I told you then, I'm going to tell you now, you need to say Nintendo Wii, otherwise no one knows what you're talking about. Or it takes an awkwardly long time to oh, right.
yeah.
Well, yeah, that was like 10 years, 12. How many years ago was the Wii released? Because that is
Shut up, I'm still young.
ancient time. Yeah. Anyway.
Has everyone seen that Futurama episode where they're like taking the stars out of the galaxy and time keeps jumping forward?
Yes, I love that episode.
Time keeps on skipping.
That's that's what this episode felt like. They just sort of did so many plot beat jumps.
Oh yeah, it felt like the editor had no time to cut the episode together, and just was like, yeah, that'll do. But there's several points where you're just like, wait, where did that realization happen? Is that on the cutting room floor, or what happened? Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. So the Omen opening, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Not really a segment.
One of the bright spots for me was the joke sequence. Even though I find it a little inside baseball, like it's just for comedy writers, but I was still like, hat tip to Nemo is Omen backwards.
Yeah.
Race car is, rather than race car, which is what I expected, it's palindrome. That burns.
Yeah.
You see the Nemo poster again, and that is a good topper callback. That tickles me more than I think it would someone who doesn't like to analyze comedy, and you guys probably feel the same way, but it's technically... That's pretty clever. You got 3 good beats out of that chain. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've just got no real other notes about that. Was going to be my note.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, it's just nothing else stands out.
The thing I didn't like about that bit was the Nemo with the Simpsonized face. It was sort of Uncanny Valley almost. Like it didn't look right, and I kept staring at that and not listening to what was actually going on. But anyway,
at least it wasn't having sex with a person dressed in a Homer costume.
Can't we purge that from our collective minds?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know it's been mentioned on the show before when you get to these later seasons, but this opening especially, I actually felt my heart go out. Like someone has to get Julie Kavner some tea and honey. Like someone has to free her from this gravelly hell that she's stuck in. You can just hear her laboring under the onus of doing the Marge gruffness.
Yeah.
But then by the other token, something I end up always writing when I view Simpsons with analytical eye, no matter how late in the season is, Dan Castellaneta elevates so many lines that are just phoned in. That dude will not phone it in. Like you can hear him still doing classic Homer deliveries on lines that don't deserve that much effort. So that's always delightful.
Yeah. You find the bright spots where you can, but yeah, poor Julie Kavner. Like, you don't feel like it's a fault of her own. Just
No.
I feel like she's contractually because I thought at one point she said, I'm retiring Marge's mum's voice. Like, I'm not doing that one anymore. It hurts too much. But then they sometimes just bring it out of the box sometimes. And I feel bad for her because I'm like, that's even worse than what you have to do normally. Please, just someone do something.
And we'll talk about her a bit more in the final segment, but let's move on to the technical first segment, unless anyone had anything else to say about this opening.
My only note is I thought we were just straight into episode. I didn't realize this was an intro for a long, long time until we skipped rapidly ahead to the end of the Omen. Like, oh, okay, this is actually just the intro, isn't it?
It was just, such a very laborious way of them doing look, it's our 30th Treehouse and also our 666th episode.
Sorry, there was 2 minor little things I want to talk. First of all, I just loved the sick burn on Morrissey and people who listen to Morrissey.
Yeah, actually, I was into goth Rod and Todd.
Yeah, but then Ned saying oh, I guess I have to dig 3 graves. It's very grim. Just one random thing that I noticed in the background, and I had to mention it because it's my thing, is that at the start, we're in the hospital and Marge is giving birth. I noticed in the background behind the hospital beds, the plugs were actually Australian plugs.
Oh.
Yeah, they had the 2 at an angle and the 1.
You mean before they went to the upside down, they went to the down under?
Yeah.
If you look very carefully, the toilet water is swirling the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's so subtle, but you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another weird joke about Shauna making out with Kearney and Jimbo while they were hanging themselves. That was...
It just really, I know there's something I can't elucidate about why I feel a rule was broken when, because obviously The Simpsons can break reality if it does it in a way that's responsible, quote unquote. But when they literally said, we're killing ourselves now, which you already rarely have a character do, say, I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
They go, we're killing ourselves now. And they jump off. And for the sake of shimmying in a mediocre joke, they go like, I guess they don't die though, so they can say one more bad joke. Oh, that bothered me. And call me old-fashioned, but
Yeah.
I also actually honestly miss the more elaborate. I understand after a number of years you get bored and you just do stuff for change's sake, but the more elaborate intro sequence, the only equivalent of the Marge walking on stage and or seeing a bunch of short 15-second lightning strike and etc. Yeah.
But it was so different to say, this is a different episode. Get ready, everybody.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Like, yeah, it's so far removed from, the stage or Homer just burning his hand on a jack-o'-lantern and we're into it. Like,
Yeah.
and this is going to be a main point coming in because, there's just so much, wasted time in this section that they needed for all the rest of them, including this first segment, Danger Things. Mostly a rip-off of Stranger Things and 80s.
I was about to start yelling 80s
Yeah.
because that's what this segment is doing, just constantly.
If it had been 5 to 10 seconds at the start of just a bunch of references, but they did it in about 3 to 4 to 5 different scenes of you just need to remind you, this is the 80s. There is a Prince record right there. Just making sure you know.
But Jordan, we needed to free up that time to watch the kids playing the E.T. Atari game.
Oh, yeah.
We spent about a good solid 15, 20 seconds watching this happen. It had to be there. It's essential.
It seemed as if the editor felt it was essential that we heard the entire musical coda of the E.T. Atari game. Did you notice that they they refused to cut out when it went do 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 literally that long, which no Simpsons moment should ever last that long. That's antithetical to the show. It's ridiculous.
It really annoyed me because, at the start I appreciated, they're doing the reference to the thing, and it's okay, it's still going. And in that time, it got me to think, wait, was this even really a thing in Stranger Things? The kids were more about playing D&D, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I've only seen the first season. I didn't get around to watching season 2 and 3, but I felt like
you finished it, Beach.
Yeah.
How about you, Swaim? Did you watch Stranger Things? Or
I fell off after season 1, and that could be its whole other podcast. I understand that it's able to give people these cool feelings, but I already felt those feelings because I'm older than them, and they were called E.T. and Goonies, and I just couldn't escape that. I'm I've seen this. This is just cut up things from my childhood mixed around. Kids, go knock yourselves out, but I'm over it.
Well, to me, that's I felt kind of maybe that this is what The Simpsons were trying to parody because, Stranger Things at times does feel hey, 80s stuff.
Yeah.
But this episode just felt like it was doing that, not making a meta point about it or anything.
Yeah.
It was just, rolling out all the 80s references.
Yeah, it's just basically, again, they kind of jumped on that bandwagon a bit too late. They do this with the Treehouses. When they make a pop culture reference, often it's 2 or 3 years too late to really be in the popular conscious, I guess. And I feel like if this was only released in October last year, season 3 had already finished, I think, by that stage. And
well, they even have Comic Book Guy making a comment on it, and I don't know.
It just seemed strange. Yeah, like you said about the pacing of this was really strange because there were times where they really rushed some things, but then the bit where suddenly you cut to Luann and Kirk, and he's going, well, if Milhouse is in another dimension, I'm how did we get to this point? Where did that even come from?
Him looking through a closet, throwing out a bunch of 80s references, trying to find Milhouse in the closet, then smashing in through the wall with a sledgehammer for some reason.
Yeah.
So to contrast, the classic Shining Treehouse of Horror segment. We just covered The Shining, the real one, on on one of our podcasts, and it was shocking. It occurred to us that they really did manage to condense the entire plot of a 2-hour and 45-minute movie into like 7.5 minutes, and you could watch the Simpsons Shining parody and not watch The Shining and understand what happened, and everything makes sense. If you watch this segment of Simpsons, by contrast, Lord help you if you don't know what Stranger Things is. You're boned.
Yeah. No, and the story was really dumb as well, because then at the end it's like, oh, the Demogorgons are friendly, but they're still not. And like,
the upside down, or what do they call it in this? Something really stupid. The up and over or something.
The under over,
yeah. It goes from being this desolate horror dimension to being, oh, actually, real estate prices are really good and the schools are great. It's like, when did that happen?
It's such a shame, because I actually love the casting of this. I think, Bart and Milhouse, like Milhouse's Will, that is, of course. And Lisa is 11, and I do like the excuse, I
tried to give myself bangs and just lost it. Yeah.
I have a feeling there's a lot of women in isolation that got Lisa haircuts from errant bangs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you're bald.
Yep.
I also liked the subtle costume implication that both Luann and Kirk are Winona Ryder. She got split. That's funny. Yeah.
Kirk's hair looked incredible, I gotta say.
Even the worst Simpsons episodes, they still have sharp individual jokes, or I think they wouldn't. The filter's at least that good. The writers they hire are able to bring a joke. So I did like Easy on the Electric Bill there, son. Got a chuckle out of it.
Actually, I didn't mind him sending him to his room as well.
Yeah. I also really liked, and again, it's Stan's performance, I think, but it's all part of a secret government program to find monsters. That got me as well.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I got a question, because it was one of those things where I thought, why are they including this shot? The bit where the monster snatches Milhouse for the first time. And then they go back to the bike for the monster hand to come out and just spin the wheel. And then it cuts away. And I was like, why would you include that? I'm not quite sure.
One of those, it's much more ominous if the wheel is left spinning when the camera pans out. But the thing is, the wheel was spinning, it stopped, and then the monster hand came back. I think it should have just flipped. It didn't move. And the monster's like, oh no, it's funny if I do this.
Yeah, it's aware of atmosphere.
Yeah.
BT, do you have any other notes about this segment?
Just one joke that, again, too many bites, and it's only 2, but that 2 was too many, where they're in the upside down or whatever it's called, and the
reach around.
Yeah. Don't make me think about that. And Simpsons porn at the same time. That's a dangerous territory.
Hold on. Let me...
No,
okay.
Stop.
Right.
No. Sorry, I lost my own point now. Now I'm just thinking about Simpsons.
That you were talking about the old Simpsons, the old Simpsons models, right?
Yeah. Where the old version of Lisa from like the Tracy Ullman show walks past. It's okay, but then they do it again with Bart, and it's like, you already did this. It's the same joke again. You're not adding to it. It's just the same thing.
I feel like we see more of the old model Simpsons in the new seasons than season 1 wasn't that long. It was an abbreviated season. At this point, there's more footage of them wandering through season 29. Why? Get over that as a joke. That one can go.
Like, have you seen the Treehouse of Horror where they have like the old Tracy Ullman Simpsons meet
it's
the new one?
It's a whole segment.
Like, it's fucking bizarre.
Actually, new rewrite. Make the upside down just old Simpsons world, and that's the parallel dimension, and the Demogorgon's just Marge's hair split into 4. And
wait, not Sideshow Bob? He's got more of the mandible thing going on.
No,
that's perfect.
All right.
I also, you just made me realize, I think they were trying to go for a Quiet Place reference as well. Was that out already at the time?
I'd say so.
For sure.
So I feel like they sort of reached too far and tried to get that with the "they can only see us when we don't move." I know it's technically a Jurassic Park reference, but
no, it's funny you mentioned that because my frame of reference for when Quiet Place was in movies, because I still remember the expiry date on the free tickets that I never used of May of 2019.
Wow.
That were just on my fridge for that long.
Imagine what that memory is in your head and what it's replaced in your brain. But you know that.
Yeah.
That's kind of
sad. You can no longer do
about.
long division, but you remember when A Quiet Place came out.
When's your mom's birthday, hotshot?
Fuck, when is it? Do you have any other notes about this segment, Michael?
I do not.
And my only other note is Gil saying, the vines, they find every hole. And I kind of like that joke.
The visual depiction of that was pretty
sexy.
Yeah, that's the edge
right.
too. That's
that's awakened something in you, hasn't it?
Your classic Gil thirst trap.
All right, and the next segment, Heaven Swipes Right.
Oh dear.
Homer dies and he gets to pick what new body he goes in.
Speaking of soullessly cashing in on just the hottest pop culture of the moment, a parody of Heaven Can Wait.
Yeah.
Incidentally, why isn't it called Heaven Can Wait? WEIGHT.
Yeah.
This is the weakest. I think it will stand for all time as the weakest intro screen of any Simpsons segment. It's just a black void with Comic Sans the words Heaven Swipes Right. It's awful.
I was like, at first I thought they were doing like It's Always Sunny thing, like with that, but then I saw, is that Comic Sans? That can't be, right? Yeah. Actually, hey, maybe you should send this to Fox, Michael, because I noticed you've been able to come up with amazing pun titles, and I think you could probably just get a job as that. You know, they'd probably hire someone just for that.
You know, you'd think that, you'd be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I think anytime you think you have a good idea for The Simpsons, you need to imagine your stereotypical Hollywood producer, big cigar in his lips, and you're like, oh, what if we called it Heaven Can Wait with like the pun title? And he's like, no, you got to get the kids with the Tinder on board.
Yeah.
They swipe right now.
So the big thing that stands out to me of this segment is the confusing nature of swapping between Homer, like Homer, actual body Homer, and what everyone's seeing him as. There is absolutely no consistency with it.
And his voice.
The voice as well.
When he inhabits the first body, he still has Homer's voice, but when he inhabits Chalmers, he's got Chalmers' voice.
But it's only like 2 sentences, and then he swapped. As soon as the body swaps to Homer, his voice swaps to Homer as well.
Yeah.
It's very confusing, and I was just like, what is the rule? What are the rules? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And it was a little odd to me that they spent so much of their precious 7-minute chunk setting up a fairly simple premise and Rolodexing jokes of like, what if Google ran Heaven?
Yeah.
Okay. But you got a lot to get done here. And by the time you've explained that you're going to play this game where Homer is everyone in town, what if Professor Frink was like Homer? What if Willie was like Homer? You only have time left to do a Chalmers bit. You briefly flash to Krusty's monkey and you, Mr. Teeny. Oh, and then the resolution is he's Moe, but he does no Moe jokes. He just, as Homer says, yeah, that would be a good combo because Moe also famously is into Marge. That feels like you took your time that you had for your set and you just did setups the whole time. And you were at the end, we're like, oh, wait a minute. The end of the story was, I'm out of time. I hope you enjoyed yourself. There was just like no payoff. Yeah.
Oh, it's just, so unsatisfying.
And I gotta say, I'm not a fan of later season No, because it turns from kind of sort of creepy obsession to real sort of sexual assault Moe, and it's really uncomfortable all the time. And they don't say anything in this episode really, but the implication from what I've seen is that like when he says, oh, you just have to love me like you do, and I'm like, Moe does not love you like Homer does. That is a very
Moe's
different thing.
Moe's brain going into Maggie's body is just
the worst part about that is Homer can only inhabit people that were supposed to die that day. So Maggie was meant to die.
Oh no.
Well, that's ruined. Never mind.
Well, she was set to evil. I guess it's worked good.
I think we might have covered it. Jordan, do you have any other notes about this segment?
Yeah, I have one note because I was scribbling it furiously to get to the next note, but the actual note I wrote was Foley balloon nipple. But I'm just thinking about when he's getting
purple nurpled.
Yeah, he's getting purple nurpled. And
known
just
in this country as a nipple cripple.
Yeah, the Foley on it was like someone rubbing the skin of a balloon, and it was just going and going, and it really made me feel like a bit.
Well, now BT, I'll cut you slack because there's culture clash, and I understand that. But the C word. We consider that offensive, or at least in America. So we now call it a differently abled nipple. if you're ever visiting.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much. I don't want to step on any toes.
That will go over very smoothly. I had one question. I usually get Bible jokes, but I didn't get this one. Can anyone explain to me the guy who's been waiting here a long time with the arrows in him?
Yeah. Oh, you mean you don't know of Saint Sebastian, the saint who is tied to a tree and shot with arrows repeatedly? So if you don't know your classic art or your saints, this joke just...
Oh, wow. Do you just like... He's burning Michael. Like, saying like, oh, you don't obviously know classical art. Like, what the fuck is that mean?
You mean, Saint Sebastian, the Australian weatherman. Everyone knows that.
I mean, if you don't know your martyrs, what are you learning in school?
So what is I've been waiting a long time joke?
He's been dead since like 900.
Right.
Sorry, I'm way off. 256 to 288 AD. So he's been there a while.
Well, episode saved.
Why? Well, maybe it's something to do with why he was martyred.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you didn't already know who this was, there's nothing to figure that one out.
It's one of those things where they're like, I've got an obscure reference and we're going to make a joke, except the old one seemed funnier, and I don't know why.
Well, we keep hitting into this. Anytime Simpsons do these parodies, we notice the classic era ones, they tend to work regardless of the reference. Like, I still haven't seen The Shining, and that's still one of my favorite Treehouse segments.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
This is, I feel like this one is more leaning into... If you ever watch Archer, and there's always kind of references to very esoteric subjects.
Yeah.
But they're always just so rapidly in pacing.
Yeah.
And it's said in a way that you're not supposed to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas apparently he is a saint that's meant to be able to protect against plague. So Saint Sebastian, if you could help us out a little bit here, buddy.
Yeah.
BT, did you have any other notes about this segment?
No, I'm still learning about saints. He's got LGBT association. What's this about?
That's
All right.
interesting.
I think we can move on to when Harry met Slimy, the Shape of Water parody. Again, I don't know if you didn't see this. I don't know what you're going to get out of this segment.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But
You just made me realize that movie, although it won an Oscar and was very well thought of, it didn't slay at the box office. And imagining watching this not knowing The Shape of Water, it would be like, why is this? Who is that fish man they're roasting? Why did Smithers die? What is going on?
Yeah.
There wasn't an elegance to back in the day, and I think you hit the nail on the head, whoever said the references explain themselves, and they mostly stood as, you literally don't need to know what this is. That is the joke. The one that came to mind is the two Fraser brothers arguing about whether, designing aquifers is a profession, and he says the Cappadocians. I don't know what that means, but I know what it means in context of the joke. Yeah. And then I Googled Cappadocians, and wouldn't you know it, because they're nerds, it's true. Like, it all checks out. Yeah. What they seem to do now is Google first, find an obscure reference, and insert it, which means you only get the joke if you also know that thing. And there's very little that I already know. So it's a backwards tactic.
So what you're saying is 30 Rock predicted it again, where you come up with the punchline first and you write the joke backwards. Okay, right. Okay, cool. Just checking.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. Like, yeah, this thing again, and I like the casting. I actually think it's genuinely a brilliant casting for The Simpsons to do. Kang as the water monster and Selma as the woman. But this was just sort of, again, running through the paces so quickly. Yeah. None of the jokes really stuck for me.
I think a few of us blew air out of our nose at the, no, don't shoot the van, shoot the driver. And the guy just immediately just shoots the guy who's driving their own car. I mean, that was not bad.
But then they threw it away by having the next line be, not my driver, I meant the other driver. Come on, we got the joke. You went past the joke.
It's weird. They often don't have faith in the audience to get the joke, so they repeat it or do a second beat or whatever.
And yet in the same episode where they're like, you better know who Saint Sebastian is, no explanation. It's bizarre.
Here's 40 Wikipedia articles you should familiarize yourself with before watching this Treehouse of Horror.
I assume everyone went through the reading list. Now we can begin the episode.
And also some truly terrible, I thought all the worst jokes were in this segment. I really had a tough time with the inclusion of the Infinity Gauntlet, which felt completely unearned.
Yep.
And in one of my favorite pastimes is coming up with funny entries for a list, and to think that a team of Simpsons writers sat around and for sexual sci-fi all they came up with was Wookie Nookie and Jabba the Butt. It makes me feel like we're in a dark time. It's a dearth of comedy resources.
I feel like Simpsons as a show sometimes tries to be like, look, we're being inclusive, but then they punch down a lot sometimes with jokes, and I don't love it. when they're like, oh, I have 32 sexual identities. And I'm like, can you explain to me what sexual identity means, first of all?
Because you're basically just listing fetishes now.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they actually understand what they're talking about. And that's the thing that bothers me when it's like, hey, this is important to a lot of people out in the world. And you're just, feels like you're just kind of making fun of it. And
again, just think of the sweaty, fat producer holding the cigar going, the kids, they love themselves some genders now.
Yeah.
And it all suddenly starts to make more sense.
Yeah. I mean, the Apu thing really highlighted it, but I feel like there's always been little bits of it throughout the whole show, yeah.
Yeah, I'm out of notes for this segment anyway. Beach?
Man,
It's so weird how so much of this is a wash.
Yeah.
I kind of liked Burns' line where he's like, hello, I'm going to dissect you tomorrow. He's like, but I'll give you the secrets to clean energy. I'm going to dissect you tonight.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
But
like,
I think it's just
political.
If that wasn't the first time Burns had been a part of this, if there'd been just a bit more breathing room to bring him in as running this experiment first, but then he just walks in, says that line, later on he's in a chase sequence, the end.
Yeah.
Like, okay, wait, what? Hang on.
How about you, Swaim? Any other notes?
No, I think I've shat upon my favorite show enough for one segment.
You think that, but then we do other episodes.
But then you see the post-credits sequence and you're like, why is this here? What is this?
They do love post-credits in like the 25 plus
And
seasons.
I hate it because it felt like they had an original thing with Selma and Kang like really loving each other. Then they just turn it into a bickering couple joke and it sucks.
You know how like women nag a bunch? Well, let's just put that on the TV. Very annoying.
Almost as much as they be shopping.
Yeah,
But, you know, good on Simpsons for making 666 episodes, having to be coincidentally line up with Treehouse of Horror 30. Numbers are cool.
Do you think that was a plan? Like, when do you think they realized...
Season 2, they started planning this.
If we keep going for this long...
Without
episode
a
666 will be around October. Yeah, okay.
Do you think this thing that you have to draw thousands of images of and sequence them in order to exist was planned ahead of time?
Let's get into ranking this thing. On the Simpsons Index, we rank using our 6-point scale, which starts down the bottom at failure. Maybe if the episode was just meh, you give it participant, but for the positive rankings, you got okay bronze, good silver, excellent gold, but for the best of the very best, you give cubic zirconia. I'm going to go first. Let me show you how it's done. I could have given a participant because this is such a wash of an episode, but it really did frustrate me at points, and the poor plotting and just how fast it moved through. Like, you'd think by number 30 it'd be refined, but no. BT. So I'm failing this one. BT.
I was about to say all of that, and I didn't actually hear a ranking. Man, I'm very similar in the sense that I don't hate this, but it's also just such a mess that I feel like a participant is too kind because there's so many simple errors you could fix by just thinking ahead. And this one was pushed a lot on social media as being Treehouse 30 and it's 666 and this is the things we're parodying. They've released like a trailer poster and all that kind of stuff. So just for the fact that it's so badly put together, and I think every single segment made me roll my eyes at least, enough to make them hemorrhage, I am going to fail.
And actually, additionally into that as well, they had very strong material to parody that they just really let down. Jordan?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm thinking about, okay, there are certain episodes that should be like event episodes when they did 500 or when they did, 666, for example. And I feel like that should be planned well in advance, and you want to make that a really good, really special episode, and you would hopefully, I think, spend more than a couple of weeks on it or something. It felt rushed. It felt poorly edited. I was disappointed because I feel like when they did certain things like we were talking about before, like Simpsons Go to X or whatever, and it was like, wow, that's really cool, and they put a lot of effort into this, and this just felt like it was rushed. And anyway, so my disappointment is, I don't know if it's a failure rating. I think it's just participant. I think I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. That kind of thing.
Follow your heart. That's what we say.
Yeah.
All right. And Mr. Swaim, finish it off.
That's a hard failure. Definitely. I think I counted 5 jokes that made me blow air out of my nose and 7 jokes that made me roll my eyes. So if you're in the negatives on raw joke power alone, then I'm looking to things like heart and plot consistency and compelling use of the characters, and it had none of those either. So I'm not sure in what way it's participating.
All right, averaging out, this will be a shiny failure, and it'll be the second Treehouse of Horror to get a shiny failure. It'll also be joining Treehouse 29. That's the one that opens with, like, Homer eating Cthulhu and...
that was the last one I had to watch. Great.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And the Tree People and
Yeah.
Invasion of the Poddy Snatchers, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, people are always on their phones. Whap.
Polished turds, everyone. Shiny failure.
All right, cool. Well, let's jump backwards in time. How many years is this? Holy fuck. 17 years to a Teens Era episode. And we're going to watch Treehouse of Horror 13. We will be back. And we are back, and we just watched our Teens Era episode. This was Season 14, Episode 1, Treehouse of Horror 13. First released in November of '02, it was directed by David Silverman, and a different writer took each segment, which I'll mention as we go along. In this episode, Homer clones, gun violence, and Animorphs. What did we think?
Animorphs. I just think coming off of the last segment that we just watched, I was worried that I was being too harsh, and it's nice to be proven right retroactively.
Yeah.
I was definitely a
gonna say.
failure. Just the feeling of cohesive, grounded competence that pervaded this, which I'm not even saying it's a stellar episode necessarily, but the feeling of like, I'm on solid ground. They know what they're doing. Consultant John Swartzwelder came up and I'm like, we're okay here. This is going to be fine. And indeed it was fine. And that's my first takeaway. It's just like, it's not that every Simpsons episode has to be spectacular. It's when they abandon the basic storytelling coherence that it becomes sort of hollow feeling. And if nothing else, this felt like an episode of The Simpsons to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing that struck me first, because I didn't really notice its absence in the previous episode that we watched, was the music was horror music. Like it was, even in the pre-credits sequence with the seance and everything, it was spooky music and it set the tone. It worked. Like, and I don't remember it really happening like that in the previous episode. It was incidental at best, I felt. Yeah.
No, we always complain about the lack of atmosphere in New Simpsons, and it's having the point of comparison is just you hear it.
And when you have Fox money, surely a theremin is not that expensive.
No,
It's just a one-off purchase.
Exactly.
Like,
It pays for itself after its third use.
yeah.
if you have a coat hanger and a car battery, you can make your own.
Hey, Rick, disclaimer, don't do that.
So yeah, the opening, unlike the last one, we can get through this pretty quickly. A seance with Maud. Any thoughts on this?
The only bit I don't like is when Bart comes in, he's like, I'm Maud, give me a kiss. And then he's like, relax, dudes, it's me, Bart Simpson. The way everyone reveals their jokes with their full name.
I was also thrown by the voice. I don't know all the details. Was Maud killed off because the voice actor left or passed or anything like that?
No, she wanted to, Maggie Roswell, I think it is. She wanted to continue doing the voice, but from her home in Seattle. She didn't want to stay in LA. And so instead of, hooking up a remote recording for, like they do with Harry Shearer, who lives in London, no, they just said, no, we're just going to have a T-shirt cannon kill your character.
Well, as you know, a remote recording is technologically infeasible for any but the elite of society.
Yeah.
Hence this plethora of podcasts. So yeah, I was thrown by the different Maud voice, and the only thing that I took away from the opening framing device was it reminded me so much of the one with the Fox sponsor.
Yeah.
And yet just imagining the written words on the page, I found something very anticlimactic about tales that will boil your blood, then choke on these. It's just pretty lazy. They were just like, let's get through it. Let's get to the stories.
I mean, I guess they were going for the meta commentary of like, are you ready for this? And it's like, well, duh. It's like, this is what we signed up for.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like, okay, cut to we're opening the book. That's the title. Let's get into it. Yeah.
But no, it felt like easily replaceable dialogue. Like it was,
But again, we got into the episode. We didn't waste all this time that could have been better used.
Yeah.
I was actually very for how just quick this was. Like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also because again, maybe it was because they packed more into it, but the episode felt longer than when it was, almost at the end of the first segment, and I'm like, I swear this is like half the episode already. Like this can't just be a third. This wasn't 7 minutes just now, was it? Like it felt really long because they actually, had some writing.
Send in the Clones especially because of the number, because every single scene is a legitimate plot beat. Like this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens. They take up more space, and it's just like in life, when you actually do 8 different things in a day, you'll think back to the first one and be like, that was today? That felt like several days ago. Whereas vice versa now in quarantine, I'll be like, I ate pancakes last night because I'm quirky, and my girlfriend will be like, that was 4 weeks ago, man. Time is just telescoping. So I just think Send in the Clones is a great example of the plot is engaging enough that I had the same thought as Jordan. I was like, is this a full-length episode? Did I tune into the wrong thing? Because it feels longer than it is, and it feels like a meal where you get more than you were promised.
Yeah. No, I really do have a bit of affection for this teens era of Treehouse of Horror. Like, the premises are a little bit silly and, like, they're a little bit looser with their writing, but yeah, it hasn't gone fully to that, HD era looseness. But yeah, there is something fun and silly about, especially, this opening segment. Send in the Clones. BT, do you have thoughts about it?
Oh my gosh, yes. I just super love when the hammock guy is just walking along right when Homer's hammock breaks. Like, oh, the hammock man. Good thing he's early today. Like, I just love that. I don't even know what you call it. The overly convenient plot device, but, they just try to establish it as being normal.
The world building of that Springfield has a hammock man and he roams the neighborhood. Man. Yeah, exactly.
And, much like an ice cream van. Yeah. And I also love his dire warnings. Must warn you, it's $10, but this weave is a mix of comfort and evil.
Had me at comfort.
Yeah.
Brilliant fucking line right there.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it is a retread of the Frogurt guy, but I'm fine with it at this stage.
And they don't spend so long with it that you get worn out if you are tired of that.
Well,
it's a bit of an homage.
They didn't do the back and forth. It was just like a one-off. Well, let's get. Yeah, cool. All right, great. Give it to me.
It makes me want to put more of that into my sales pitches at work when I'm trying to sell people wine and be like, well, you can take this wine, but I must warn you, the grapes were grown from the grave of an evil man. And if that doesn't sell people wine, I don't know what will.
They come from a haunted chateau where they imprisoned a 10-year-old boy for 3 months and made him drink antifreeze.
Wow, jeez. That's grim.
How about you, Mike? What stands out to you from this segment?
Definitely favorite line from the segment has to be after he's already cloned himself twice, but he's now considering cloning himself again, and it creates 4. Wow, 4 of me. I think this might be a magic hammock. After he bought it from a guy who said, this is a magic hammock. I really enjoy that. And you just made me realize another thing that stands out. I don't know if it's positive or negative, but there are actually a fair number of what I would call homages, which later era Simpsons are just lousy with. But I actually feel they were rarer in this period, but this one has quite a few. It's also got a classic grandpa rant. As you said, it's sort of got an homage to the Frogurt guy. Like, this is a very playlistable episode in the context of your podcast. And it's another that has the Tracy Ullman model Simpsons wander through.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's go for some frosty chocolate milkshakes.
It's very self-referential. I feel like this is almost maybe an inflection point at the beginning, near the beginning of getting too much of this sort of thing. But it was still fresh at this time. You were still surprised to see a Family Guy in The Simpsons at this time.
Yeah. You know what's funny, actually, at this time, that they included this joke, Peter being a clone of Homer, pretty good bit. They were actually had a couple of other jokes that they were going to stack on top of that, but at the time, Family Guy had been cancelled, and they were like, quote, we didn't want to kick a man while he was down.
Well, that would change.
Wouldn't it just?
Yeah.
Now that guy has 9 shows on. He's the only one selling shows. It's insane.
My favorite bit from this episode has got to be the ending. I love when Treehouse of Horrors don't reset to 0.
Yeah.
Like Homer with the donut head.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just love what that does to my imagination, thinking about, what his adventures could be being a donut head.
Yeah.
And I like this one where it ends that, it was one of the clones, and Homer, the actual Homer, chased the donuts and he was the first off the cliff. Again, it's like the Hammock Man, where there's so much more implied dialogue than what we heard.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Marge's like, oh well, this is what it is. It's a lot like the time travel toaster.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, close enough.
Yeah. The two bits that I did really like as well is when the first clone dies and he clones himself again to get rid of the body, and you think, oh God, where are they going to put it? And they're just tipping it over the fence into Flanders' yard, and it's never mentioned again. So you obviously know that Flanders is like panicked, and that's maybe why he needed the chainsaw. And that just tickled me. The other one is the bat where he's talking about the little girls in the war room. I can't remember the exact line, but I said I'm sorry.
When Lee says the idea for the donuts, and the guy's like, yeah, and you said we shouldn't have little girls in the war room.
I was wrong, okay?
Sorry.
Oh, I just also laughed out loud at specifically the pacing of Homer shooting the third Homer in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Come on.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the clones interacting with the family, especially with the grandpa story, the patiently nodding with the mouth agape as talking about Superman fighting FDR or some shit.
It did remind me of the talking about homages. It reminded me of him listening to Ned talk about cider. Same open mouth, yeah.
Nothing ever beats Onion on the Belt, though. There's something magical about Onion on the Belt. The whole run.
Well, it was the style at the time.
No, and The Simpsons would try so many times, and it's hard to tell what exactly works about a good nonsense grandpa rant, but Onion on the Belt, fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
And I love when he's playing, baseball with the kids, and Liz is like, something off about Dad. He's just slamming the car with a baseball bat.
Me not notice. Yeah.
How about you, Michael? Any other notes about the clones?
This was sort of the period where you saw them actively borrowing things from Family Guy, which was interesting to see in real time. And I just think one solid thing about Family Guy that it did sort of invent was the quickness with which Peter will fall over. It takes one frame for him to go from upright to the ground. And I got those vibes from Homer beating the car. That really worked well. Yeah.
How about you, BT?
Yeah, I got a couple I'll speed through real quick. I do like when Homer fights himself, and he's like, man, are we evenly matched?
Yeah.
A good character fights themselves, I'm always amused by. And I do like that when the other clones pull the clone Homer off, he's like, haha, it would take 3 clones to take on the original. Like, 4. I mean 4. Like,
which Gil is that?
I was about to say off-model Gil.
Is it a clone Gil, maybe?
Ooh.
Yeah, he's a bit fat. He's got darker hair, overalls.
I mean, he's still got the, the Jack Lemmon voice, but I mean, it's definitely a different character, it seems, anyway.
Yeah, I liked the clones eating poor old Gil and leaving his skeleton standing.
And then just the way his skull slouches, just the way even in death, he's still, defeated.
Yep.
Is this just coincidence, or has it become a new era tradition to kill Gil in every Treehouse of Horror? Because he got Vine... Vine
in the last one. Vine-elated.
Well, I think, he's just the whipping boy of The Simpsons almost.
Sure.
Like, as much as Skinner becomes, but I mean, he's like, well, if we need a downtrodden guy to just really kick in the teeth, Gil's your man,
See, I'll subtly push back only in that I think if you're going to have someone find out all the money's gone or their family's leaving them, it's Gil. If you're going to have someone get crushed by a falling I-beam, I think it's Hans Moleman.
Oh, it is Moleman, right? Yeah, very true. Yeah.
The indestructible Hans Moleman.
Yeah, it is more funny to watch him die than Gil.
Is there something innocent about that little peanut head?
Well, actually, I did notice. Sorry, not to skip ahead, but there was a sign gag in the next segment that someone was holding up a thing at the rally that said "Fire Gil, not guns," and I just thought, okay,
again, it's just the implied dialogue. It's great. Oh, yeah, and I forgot to mention it. That segment was written by Mark Wilmore. All right, and next one, The Fright to Creep and Scare Harms. And I don't know if Simpsons have done this before, but they showed what they were doing a pun on before. Anyway.
Yeah, with the lightning strikes it and it reverts to the pun words. Yeah.
And this one was written by Brian Kelly. Now, I just want to start off this section with a little bit of weird, interesting trivia. So everyone knows the South Park episode Simpsons did it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a million stories about where the South Park team had to, scramble at the last second. And they had an idea for an episode where everyone would hand in their guns and then they'd be left defenseless against aliens. And they were like, oh, fuck, Simpsons did it. And then so either Matt or Trey was talking with one of the Simpsons guys and saying, oh, yeah, we're going to do this. But then we found out you did it in, season 3. And they were like, Oh, we did it again in season 14, which would be this one.
That's what my brain kept telling me, that a nail with a board with a nail in it joke is coming up, and then it never hit. That's what. Yeah, okay, I understand
Bingo.
now. Yeah.
And then even 3 years prior to this, in the Family Guy episode, Da Boom, which plot pretty much centers around that exact same premise. Yeah. Taking guns, left defenseless, invading army. Yeah. Interesting stuff. What do we think of this segment?
It had its moments.
Yeah, I think Send in the Clones was the strongest, as I believe they lampshade in a future episode. And Bart, you'll have the third story, which is generally the weakest. I think that for my money, this episode was a case of starting off very strong and sort of ending up middling. And it's a steady downslide. So the middle one is fine. The first one, good. Middle one, fine. Third one, you'll see.
Questionable.
Yeah. I don't really think much of the plot turns in this segment, but I do like so many of the jokes.
I
Great
think I
jokes.
just have a thing for zombie cowboy stories. I enjoy zombie cowboys.
And zombie Kaisers?
And zombie Kaisers pretending to be cowboys.
Well, he
Yippee
is a
whippy.
cowboy. Yippee, whippy.
I'd quote that all. I love Yippee Whippy.
All right, he's okay. Yeah.
I can't live without passion.
Oh, and I also love Piani and Chelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
haven't even know
piano.
the
I
difference
said
between
piano.
piano and piani.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Marge is a virtuoso. Cello
I
is
know.
a fucking hard
And
instrument.
she is
Yeah.
all over that neck. It's impressive.
Yeah.
To Marge.
How about you, Jordan? What stands out to you from this segment?
Just the simple things of, like, for example, I'm blanking. Wiggum's son's name is
Ralph.
Thank you, God. When Ralph slides down the gun slide, and you can just see the bumps, and he's like, and the guns are firing off left and right as he's passing the triggers.
Yeah.
That it just little thing. It just tickled me. So it was good. I really liked watching that.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially because Australia, back in 96 or something, we had a very massive gun buyback thing happen. And they were saying, how they'd melt the guns down and, make play equipment and stuff. So seeing it where they did such a half-assed job of it, I really enjoyed that.
And you live under the oppressive boot of alien invaders now, right?
It's actually spiders.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we were.
See, that's why we'll hold on to our guns. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, you can make peace with the spiders,
Yeah, our tyrannical overlords, and they're not that bad. You work in the funnel web mines and you deal with it.
And, they do have a point, sucking out the blood from flies, pretty delicious.
Yeah, I mean, don't knock it till you tried it.
Nope. Who haven't I asked? Mike, what stands out for you from this segment?
Well, we mentioned the piani and the celli, but I also think the overly intricate prompt that Bart and Lisa ace with the song they need to improvise is pretty good.
Yeah.
Please don't hurt our family being the final line got me. And I liked, this is also, I think, a note for future Simpsons of how to do wackiness without abandoning the cohesion that makes you feel like you're in good hands, which is, I enjoyed... not the joke itself, because it's a bad joke, but I find this to be a good use of lampshading. When Homer says, she says, but they're inhuman monsters. So are the Grammy judges. That is a dad joke. It's a roll your eyes joke. It's a groaner. To save it for the purposes of Simpsons, they have a hand come in and yank him off frame. And that's a joke in and of itself. And I think that's where modern Simpsons would cut off. Or do a weird non sequitur about where did that hand come from? I don't know.
Yeah.
Something even wackier to top the current level of wackiness. Instead, in this, they just smoothly, elegantly are like, it was Professor Frink pulling him out of frame to advance the plot. And I just actually love, because I've seen Simpsons enough to be like, of course, the jokes are funny. I understand. That's why it's The Simpsons. To actually appreciate the underlying mechanics that make it work is my new level of nerd interest in The Simpsons. And I thought that was a great moment of, man, when you got to tell an expansive story in 7 minutes, it's fun to watch how you actually do that with aplomb.
Yeah, exactly. And doing a good play on the old, Bo Peep crook pulling the bad comedian off. It's very good. Yeah.
I feel like maybe there's been I don't want to say they started it because they probably didn't, but with the advent of Vine and like people having to just make a funny concept fit into 6 seconds, it's like it's almost been like, okay, we've got to do it in 7 minutes, and then you've been like shrunk down until we've got to like this period now where you've got the Vine and TikTok and stuff where it's like you get 10 seconds of my attention to be funny, so you better make it count.
You better bring it, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Good idea that I had to make a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other notes about the fright to creep and scare shit? I don't know.
Yeah, I really like Wiggum in the beginning when he like Snake hands in his gun and Wiggum's like, "Ha, not so tough without your gun now." And he just slaps him and he goes, "Ha, I guess you are." That's what I like about this job. You learn things.
That was a good chain. We got a good laugh out of that in the room.
And the other chain I like, which was, "We're going to rob the bank and give the money to the poor, then rob the poor and shoot the money." Which, it just reminds me a lot of like Three Amigos. Yeah, we'll rape the horses and ride out on the women.
Any other notes, Jordan?
No, I was just thinking, like, and maybe that's the point, is that there is no explanation for why these 5 corpses are suddenly, reanimated.
They were just patiently waiting for there to be no guns so they could come up, even though they seemed to be invulnerable.
But it was like a specific time, because they go over to the graveyard and they start shooting up the graves, and they appear right on schedule, like you would expect. Yeah. But I guess knowing would not help me laugh more or be funnier, so like it's just
the
something
explanation will not give you anything.
No, like I said, like I'm not a big fan of the plot beats because of sort of those reasons, but then like I do have a soft spot for the turning the whole, no, I'm from an even distant future and you have to not do it this guy, and the Mo's like, shut up.
And just the feeling that it was back when they obviously pitched concepts. It didn't have to be a parody per se to make the cut. It's nice just to see a story. It's nice to see them try something spooky.
Yeah.
Imagine that trying.
Is there a reference to when Homer handing in all his 30 guns that the box says Maggie's guns?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a Who Shot Mr. Burns thing?
I guess so.
Okay.
Maggie shot a few people by this point.
Yeah, well.
She shot at the Mafia guys as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
What was the name Homer gave to his gun? Mr. Blasty.
Mr. Blasty.
Yeah. These first 2 segments, not a parody, unlike this last segment. The Island of Dr. Hibbert, written by Kevin Curran. Thoughts?
Isn't it Isle of Dr. Moreau, or is it Island?
I thought it was the Isle of Dr. Moreau.
I thought it was a peninsula.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can imagine is someone in the room thought the audience was too dumb to know what an isle is, or that island is more accessible or something.
Wait, so this is a part of the supermarket that Dr. Hibbert owns?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Isle.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I got it. It was good. Didn't need to
Oh,
point
because
to
they're
it.
spelt different, but they sound okay.
Homonyms.
I'm a homo nymph.
No, you're just a whore.
Let's not unpack that.
Yeah, anyway, this was my least favorite segment. I thought it started well, but then the end sort of devolved into here's all the cast of The Simpsons. Yeah, here's their animal versions.
Yeah, I like the opening line of, "Why are we spending our vacation on the island of lost souls?" It's like, just fuck it, we're going into this. Shut up.
Yeah.
There were moments I really liked, but yeah, I feel like this episode was a straight downhill slide, and therefore this is the nadir. But I did like individual jokes. I didn't laugh out loud, but I thought the thought, that's funny, to it's Mr. Burns with a fox attitude.
Yeah.
I did laugh despite thinking that's a bad joke. I shouldn't have laughed at that. At Disco Shrew's dance, because of literally the skill of the animator. Like the dance itself is quite funny. The little hands up shrew dance. And I really, really enjoyed the character moment and thought it was very true to Marge in a way that only some Simpsons writers key into Marge. But it's a great Marge moment for her to make a joke that is bad and then say, "Why am I always so funny when no one's around?"
Marge being cute is one of my favorite tropes in the whole show. Absolutely.
That felt like such a true Simpsons moment. I had a lot of goodwill for the rest of the segment.
Yeah. Oh, and perfectly led into the spooky moment. Like, I think I enjoy the spookiness of this one. It's just, the ending kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, no, it's the easiest out. I will say I quite like the little, I guess it's almost like a Hanna-Barbera kind of joke where they're walking through the forest and there's all these, eyes following them.
Yes,
and then one eye just turns to a smaller one and just eats it.
Eye jaws. Ugh. And I got to say, there were some, good casting of animals. Like I like how Principal Skinner is the Joey and the Agnes kangaroo pouch.
Yeah.
But Snake is a skunk.
That's
Yeah,
odd.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I get maybe there's like a cut joke where someone's like, "Oh, you're a skunk." I thought, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I thought Snake would be too on the nose," or something like that.
God,
But-
even if he was a jailbird, like
Yeah.
if that, damn.
Isn't that his actual
Yeah.
name? Yeah. okay.
Snake, aka jailbird.
Yeah. There was a very specific Scottish joke, which I didn't know the stereotype, but when Homer's like, careful, he may slobber on your crotch. Like, I've been around Scotsmen before, and I'm like, where does that come from? I don't
Oh, no,
understand
I
it. Or
think
maybe-
that is the joke. It's the same joke as I filmed you in your car without you knowing. People think I'm a freak, but every single Scottish person does it. I think they like to put impossible stereotypes on the Scots. It's a clear theme in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
No, it's just like weird, oddly specific racism that can't be offensive.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, we were talking about when we went to Disney World and the barbershop quartet, and you were
Oh,
getting
yeah.
very upset about that.
all their Irish jokes.
Yeah.
yeah, what do they call them? The Dapper Dans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, oh, they're doing nice 4-part harmonies. Isn't that sweet? And then they just launch into 5 minutes of burning Irish people. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, to be fair, it's not hard to burn Irish people. You're very pale.
Dunk. You got my number. So let's address some of the creepiness in this segment, though.
You've never ever used your tail like that before.
That hurts more than it tickles.
I do like that as a line, though.
Yeah.
Well, and very explicitly inviting you to imagine full-on bestiality, essentially, between Homer and a cat, Marge.
Yeah. Although I suspect it's sometime during the sex.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I somehow find that less creepy than, you know, Homer pulling on Ned's udder.
Oh, just the line, milk me. Like,
Yeah.
no, thank you. Running away.
Yeah, it was like, did you have to say it like that, Ned?
Oh, just, squeeze my teeth and harvest my milk.
You gave away the game, yeah.
Does anyone else have any other notes about this segment?
No, I'm just really imagining like the room where they're trying to get the line read for milk me, and they're like, how do you want to play this? What's my motivation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, your udders are swollen. You need to be milked.
I
mean,
see.
Imagine what a
Interesting.
cow feels like. Jesus. Yeah, no, look, if my notes were a graph, like it does go down
Same.
very rapidly throughout the 3 parts, like from like a half to a third to
Yeah.
a quarter. And yeah, I was just ending up just watching it and really not writing anything and just kind of going, cool.
I do enjoy a good Homer improvised song. So here he is singing Lion Sleeps Tonight, Homer Rides a Freak.
Yep. Any other notes, Swaim?
I wish that a cold close was only used when you felt it was really justified because it's such a killer joke to go out on such an act break. Boom. Our number 4, it was like, it's a weak joke in and of itself, but I don't understand the decision to leave the audience with that taste in their mouth as the final thing. Look at the island. It looks like our number 4 makes you think. I know it is probably just to include Kang and Kodos,
Yeah.
to which I say, just try harder. There had to be a better
Yeah.
way to use them for a one-off joke at some point in the proceedings.
My brain was wondering if it was also some, like a kind of like a toilet humor kind of thing, like a... Because I'm like
Like when you
maybe,
go number
'cause,
4.
you know, because aliens, maybe they've
Yeah.
got number 4. Like because I thought, no, it can't just be that the joke that it looks like a numeral 4, right? That can't be it.
32 sexualities and 6 different bowel movements.
Bodily
Yeah.
functions,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
Well, we know from the episode where Homer gets abducted by aliens and Bob Dole says, let's tell these aliens a third corn shoot. So they could feasibly have a number 4. Even though I don't want to support Jordan's theory because I don't want it to exist.
But no, to move away from it
It's out
very
there, man.
quickly, Kang and Kodos, you hit the nail on the head, Swaim. It's just, the Simpsons are kind of beholden for some reason to include them in every Treehouse of Horror. And I think they have only missed them 3 times in the whole run. But yeah, a lot of the ones, I don't know, after the 3rd Treehouse of Horror, can feel very shoehorned in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's rank this thing. Jordan, your turn to go first.
Well, that's tough. All right, so I think in terms of the segments, I'm almost going silver, bronze participant. I actually know. Oh, fuck, that's really hard.
You need some time?
Can you come back to me? Because I'm still muddling it about in my brain.
Yep.
You go.
BT, you got it?
Bronze.
Bronze. Justify yourself.
I mean, it's a bronze. I'm sorry. First segment's really good, but the other two are just, they're okay. They're fine. They're passable. At least they're constructed properly. But, not a huge amount of laughs. Some lines I really liked, yippee whippy and things like that. But yeah, ultimately, they're passable. I could walk out of the room on these ones.
Well, we do say bronze equals okay, so that's okay.
That's okay.
Swaim.
Bronze as well. I think if I rated the segments individually, they'd be gold, bronze, and failure. So the median would be bronze.
You didn't like the last segment at all.
I think the ending just completely... outside of that Marge moment I shouted out, yeah, it really loses me. And I feel like, especially given that the other two beat it, it just casts it in a bad light for me. And I remember watching that one for the very first time and thinking, wow, that was a weak third segment.
No, I'm the same, and it's a shame because I do like what they did with the casting of the animals, but it did feel like they were just sort of going through a list at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, having said that, I tend to be a bit more lenient with the Treehouse of Horrors, but not that much more. I'm going a silver, probably because, I'd similarly rank the segments gold, silver, bronze, probably. That's just my feelings. Jordan, finish it off.
Having thought about it, I think it would probably be like a shiny bronze in my head, which is bronze. Yeah, it started off really strong, but I found myself, my attention kind of wandering a little bit towards the end, which is probably not a great sign. So bronze seems about right.
Bronze it is. All right, averaging out, that'll be a shiny bronze, and no other Treehouse of Horrors have been called a shiny bronze, but this will be the 6th episode from season 14 to be called that. Also joining Special Edna, Pray Anything, Spelling as Fast as I Can, A Star is Born Again, and Old Yellow Belly. Season 14 is a bit of a shiny bronze season.
That feels about right. Yeah, I think we gauged it well.
Yeah.
It's in similar company.
Yeah. No, season 14, it's I think we've called it the laundry season. It's a very good laundry season.
Yeah, good episode, good season to chuck on while folding.
All right, now, in a Mayoween first, see, Michael Swaim, you're very lucky because all of our previous Mayoweens, we haven't done a classic Treehouse of Horror, because there's more in the teens and HD than there is in the classic. So we had to do them without a classic one in all previous years to, catch up and
really, isn't that the real horror?
So for a Mayoween first, we are doing a classic, and holy fuck, what a classic we got lined up. We're going to watch Treehouse of Horror 6. We'll be back.
Oh boy.
Just gotta say, you neglected to mention it was your fault for letting people pick the episodes in when you first started.
Yup.
Yeah. So people would be like, I want to watch Treehouse. Be like, great.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And we are back, and we just watched our classic and final Treehouse of Horror tonight. This was Season 7, Episode 6, Treehouse of Horror 6. First released in October of 1995, it was directed by Bob Anderson, and again, different writer for every segment. Yeah, groundskeeper Willie is Freddy Krueger, giant advertisements destroying the town, and Homer in the third dimension. What'd we think?
Fantastic.
Do you guys remember the third dimension thing being a full-on ad campaign for weeks?
Yeah.
This was event television. Yeah, this was a big deal.
Yeah, even years afterwards, because, you got IMAX cinemas, the IMAX in Sydney, well, before it was destroyed, was a big deal, and they, built an entire show around this. Yeah, IMAX fucking loved that section.
Yeah.
Well, it was so extreme. That's how we liked it in the 90s.
Yeah.
Extreme to the max.
Everything had an X in it, and we were happy then.
Yeah, this was actually the first viewing where I fully understood the meaning of the joke of his line about, I feel like I'm wasting money just standing here. This place looks expensive. Better make the most of it. As a kid, I wasn't parsing it's more expensive per second to create the 3D than the 2D.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's just one of these things that's never going to have the impact now. But, back in 95, I still think, Toy Story wasn't even out in cinemas yet.
I think 95 was when it was released. But, you go back and watch Toy Story now, it's not, obviously, you're used to better.
Yeah.
But, I still think there's a lot of old CGI and stuff that still kind of holds up. You watch Jurassic Park, yes, they used a lot of practical, but the CGI they did use was still really good because they paid attention. And this, you know what, to create The Simpsons in a 3D world, reimagining it, and then that scene at the end where he's in the real world, it still looks good. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, a well realized concept will always work better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll talk about this episode as sort of naturally gravitating towards Homer 3, so we may as well just finish it off at the start, which is funny because I still remember, all the advertising campaigns hyping up the episode. You'll see The Simpsons like you've never seen them before, and then just like it feeling so excruciating having to go through the first 2 segments. As amazing as they are, it was just, but when are they going to get to the 3D fireworks
When are we
factory?
going to get to the... Wait, I was literally doing that bit.
Well, yeah, we talked about before, just before the third act being typically the weakest. And yes, there really isn't a story in the third act. It's just a vehicle for them to show off the graphics that they worked so hard on. But I don't care. I don't care because it is such a feast for especially as me as a much smaller child. That was amazing to watch. My God, this looks so cool. The fish and the reflection in the water. And then
look at Homer's drool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the money shots, the drool and the fish, really stand out.
Yeah.
Although I remember I was young enough that the reality of him saying, I'm going to be sucked into oblivion, I'm going to be nothing, and what's coming out the other side, I don't know. And his face getting sucked off. Some of the stuff I legitimately found spooky, like Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
It gave me weird feelings when I was 11, 12. And I agree that it's just holding the jokes together, but man, I was just couldn't keep up with my notes this time.
Yeah.
And rather than writing, I try to write pop culture theses or observations in previous ones. This one, I just have lines that were amazing.
Yeah.
It's when you go back to these classic ones, you get that feeling of a cornucopia of unbelievable. So many lines that I still recall are from this one episode. My dad to this day often says erotic cakes to end a conversation.
Yeah. That's what I love about the classic ones is there are lines where you're like, oh, it's this episode. That's the one where the line that that always pops into my head whenever I look at a calendar and say lousy March weather. It's from this one. Right. Okay, cool.
No, absolutely. Did anyone have any more thoughts about Homer 3? Homer to the power of 3, I should say.
This is based off the Twilight Zone episode, Little Girl Lost. Many, many great Halloween episodes are based off Twilight Zone episodes.
Like that Twilight Zone.
Yeah, the show with the zone. Yeah.
Yep. Man, I mean, for an episode where they could have just rested on their laurels of have a look at Homer in 3D, wow. There are a lot of great, really quotable moments in this. I don't know. Do you see towels? If you see towels, you're in the linen closet again.
Marge's problem solving this episode is hilarious. Let's get Ned. He has a ladder. He stands on the ladder. I don't know.
Yeah.
But how many times have we also gone, whoa, slow down, egghead.
Yeah.
Now this is a square.
I'm somewhere where I don't know where I am has pervaded my vocabulary.
And I forgot about the opening when Bart and Lisa have taken the closet as a hiding spot.
Yeah.
And he just, they got me with their legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
Or the one jumping right off of that, the delivery is what sells it, but I would also like to take your coat.
The delivery of, we've been caught out. Here's the alibi. And the dog and the cat hiding in, what do you call it, Jordan? The hammer space underneath
the hammer
carpet.
space. Yeah.
It's odd comparing to, in not too long ago, they did a similar ad campaign building up to a Simpsons moment, and I remember it was that Homer and Marge were going to get divorced.
Yeah, every man's dream. Yeah.
So weird to compare to. This is something to legitimately be excited about. And CG must be much more affordable these days. And they're like, I don't know, have them get divorced, make the comedy show depressing, then take it back and have it be a dream. We've come so far.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm playing Boggle because you guys crossed off most of my lines, but I want to shout out some jokes as well.
Do you have any other lines you like?
I got a few more I wanna shine on. I never looked behind this whatchamacallit case before. Very subtle, but I didn't notice Selma always says, how's it hanging to Marge in the early seasons, and there's an iteration of that here. Hey, Hey, Marge, how's it hanging? I also really like the subtlety of the fact that their trip is to Sulphur Bay. The sack of seashells is from their trip to Sulphur Bay. Then, of course, hey, you can just suck them out.
Yeah, that is horrifying.
Yeah.
That's truly disgusting.
And speaking of horrifying, my last note on this one was it really sunk home this time because, Elliot, in the last segment, you were talking about the Halloween resets. And the reset in this case is that Homer goes away forever and the family is just broken. No one ever knows what the game of Homer. That's pretty grim.
But it's all okay because erotic cakes.
Yeah. I like how quickly he's able to forget his family. He could move on in a heartbeat, Homer.
Yeah, and this final shot as well where Homer in the real world, they had a monster of a time trying to film this. Like, Fox really didn't want to do it, and the director of this portion, David Merkin, really fought hard for this crane shot. But even then, they still got like a pretty wobbly one in the end. And they had to angle the camera to not show the traffic that had been building up from them blocking the street because, they were working under such, tight restrictions in doing it. Yeah.
I gotta say, this episode did make me think that erotic cake stores were much more pervasive than they actually are. I don't think I've seen one.
They barely exist, yeah.
Yeah, cartoons led you to certain conclusions, like the Bermuda Triangle is a legitimate problem, quicksand is out there, I'm going to get amnesia at some point, and erotic cake stores are just abundant.
And dynamite will just, like, make you go a bit black and ashy, and your hair will stand up. That's it.
Marge ends up working for an erotic cake store later. Yeah, they're very prevalent.
Yeah, that's right. And Sex Pies and Idiot Scrape. Where she starts working at the erotic baker and then finds out it's an erotic baker.
It's like, all I seem to make is tubes and
half moons and rods.
That's right.
Yeah, implying that she never saw the shop front. Like, she just started working in the back. Yeah, look, this segment, in amongst some Simpsons fans, has sort of been gone, it's a bit overrated. You know, it's not like, it's kind of lacking in jokes and it's more focused on the 3D stuff, but I still had a really good time watching this one. Like, it is like a little dated now, but some of those shots are gorgeous. Like, Homer's burping and the ripple effects and all that sort of stuff. And then, with the whole... the dimension turning into Donut County. Fucking, I loved it.
I gotta say, I think the jokes were fine in this one. I think they were quite good. I was quite pleased with all, but I really like, Frank talking about the third dimension and Lisa just leans on the light. It's a classic shtick now, but I think this was such a great little moment.
Or a freakahedron, as they call it.
I just liked, I can't remember what he says, but he was like, oh, holy light of God's creation. Like, in his brain, he's saying all this beautiful stuff. And he's like, holy macaroni! It's
pre-fried fish sticks.
It was funny because my dad used to work for a company called Silicon Graphics, and he was in San Fran, like, in the 90s, kind of doing that a little bit. So he always used to send us, like, they'd create little, like, holograms and stuff, and he'd be sending stuff back home and like saying, like, look at this, like, video that my company did on our computers and stuff. And so, like, I always thought that, like, it was his company that did this when I was doing it. Yeah. I mean, obviously not. Right. I mean, they may have used this SGI computer.
It was Pacific Data Images that rendered this. Yeah. All right. Well, doing this a little bit all out of the place. Let's jump back to the start with Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores, written by John Swartzwelder.
Nice.
Thoughts?
Incidentally, I loved Swartzwelder's spooky name in the credits this time.
Oh, I missed it.
It's credited as written by Scary John Swartzwelder.
The least effort.
Yeah,
you could possibly
make. I'm sorry to drag us back in time, which is ironically forward in time, but I have to ask BT because you brought it up. Is it where's the girl lost in the Twilight Zone? Because surely it's not the third dimension.
No, it's mostly just a empty, misty dimension. You never quite see it, but the dimension is behind her bed, I think, and they do the same thing where they draw the line around it that marks where it is, and it's the same kind of design of that, and
But it's just like a foggy area.
Yeah, imagine like an old high school drama room and fill it with smoke, and it looks like that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, but thoughts on Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores? Again, most of my notes are just lines, which I'll save for a little later, but... my one takeaway was the notable aspect of it for me as a kid was the song. And now watching it again this time, and I love the segment overall. Not their best song. The song just didn't like hit me.
I do like that Lisa decided to include, the little asterisk, guaranteed void in Tennessee.
Sure.
Like, as the closing line for the verse, it's just such a silly, like, it's like in trying to include copyright information into your song. I really like that bit.
Sorry, I just had to look up who, like, when they show all the clones dying, they they crash into an orphanage and a hospital, and then the birthplace of Norman Vincent Peale, and I didn't actually know who that was, but I had to look it up.
Is
and
it an obscure piece of Americana? Because that's John Swartzwelder.
Yeah, it is. It's Swartzweldian. It's Norman Vincent Peale was an American minister and author known for his work in popularizing the concept of positive thinking, especially through his best-selling book, The Power of Positive Thinking. So there you go.
Right, because they had like a what is it? The Paul Bunyan and his ox Blue.
Yep.
Because that's when that was happening. I don't know too much about that story, other than what I learned from Simpsons Tall Tales. Yeah.
I have no idea. I am an American, and I do not know what Babe and the Big Blue Ox are a logo for, other than Fargo. Like the movie Fargo is what they're most iconic to me from, but I don't know if they could have been playing off that. I don't know. Like the Pep Boys, I get what they're a parody of.
Yeah.
Most of the logos I get. Not sure why Babe and the Big Blue Ox are there. Or Babe the Big Blue Ox and Paul Bunyan, rather. It seemed like they were just something big that I'm sure some company would have them somewhere. You know, it's fair to put them in the mix.
From the novel Stephen King's It, there is a Paul Bunyan, plastic Paul Bunyan statue because it was cheap and it was easy, and it's, hey, Americana. So maybe there were just a bunch of these springing up around at a certain point.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to our points before, you don't need to know any of these references, because like we're trying to work out what it is, but in the context of the scene, it's just all the destruction that's happening after the ads die. So it really breezes by you anyway.
Yeah, you can understand that, a giant peanut is going to crack open a car and eat what's inside.
Well, that's another perfect example. We don't have Mr. Peanut over here.
Well, neither do we anymore. Rest in peace.
Yeah, he
that's
died.
Right. Yeah. My condolences. Is the country like still reeling? Or?
Well, there is a baby to, take on the legacy of the Peanut family, so that's okay.
Yeah,
that's a big hat to fill.
Yeah.
Wow, they had one in the chamber, hey?
Yeah, right. I mean,
that's a Peanut joke.
Yeah, no, I got it.
I mean, it's like, I don't think this is, maybe it's just an Australian thing, but when the Mortine, the insect repellent, had the Louis the Fly mascot, and they were like, should we kill off Louis the Fly? But it was just a big, campaign anyway, and it was kind of...
Which was dumb as shit because he died in the ads all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was the Fly mascot that they showed how powerful that,
doesn't matter.
He is the Hans Moleman of Australian advertising.
I really like the when the Lardland Donut Boy comes alive, he's got the Godzilla roar. I don't think I noticed that before.
Oh, the Foley in this section, and all of it actually is gorgeous.
Crinkly tin sound when they're moving, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can tell a lot of thought and experimentation went into nailing what that thing would sound like moving.
Yeah. And even like the smashing of buildings and everything and the destruction that they wreak. It was very, like, even the Foley of him saying, oh, it was Ned, and then like you just hear the stomping like fading away and then coming back. It was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah, much like Homer, walk into the light, my son. I love off-screen jokes, and it's kind of a genius move because they get to save on animation because the joke is all done in Foley and shaking the screen. It's great.
A few jokes that will become jokes that will be beaten to death in the future of The Simpsons from a structural perspective. Donuts is done later with no donuts, and I believe a third time in a different context, but I could be wrong about that, but at least twice. Next ad you see could destroy your house and eat your family. So that's a whole playlist, because The Simpsons actually have a fairly good track record, in my opinion, of jokes about the ad is about to happen. I love the one where Marge is like, I'm going to stay, but I'm going to think about products I might like to purchase. I don't have that. But I think this is one of the earlier ones. The next ad you see could destroy your house and eat your family. I really liked Wiggum murdering one of the high school seniors in Gold Flood. Yeah, he was turning into a monster, though. Homer's classic delivery on he came to life. Good for him.
Good for him.
Echoed in, or Mo. Go kill Mo.
Homer has amazing line delivery in this one. I'm going to get a donut. You don't scare us.
I also love the, don't you ever get tired of being wrong?
Sometimes.
There was a period where that was my favorite all-time Simpsons joke. This fact that she admits it. Sometimes. But I think nowadays, my favorite joke in the whole segment has got to be, From Tacoma to Vladivostok, scientists have spotted a disturbance in the vicinity of the Van Allen belt. Experts are recommending that all necessary precautions be taken. I love that for so many reasons. That's like an 8-part joke bundled up.
Yeah. What do I do?
What would you do?
All necessary precautions.
I like that this one and the next segment, actually, they kind of have a false ending that is kind of almost like changing the trope, like when it's like, oh, you've just got to give him the donut back and everything will be okay. And he holds it up and then just starts smashing things with it. But it happens in the next one as well with the like, oh, we killed Willie. Oh, that's it. Like the nightmare is over. And, you know, it happens again. I like that they're doing that in these episodes, yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but one of our guests at one time said that Simpsons can be at its best where it just seeks to undermine a character after it's been really certain.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love these. Yeah, return the idol to its owner and all will be right. Not smashing houses and kicking dogs.
Or a great little bit from Kent Brockman here, which is like, what could these advertisements be pitching? What kind of product would validate this kind of carnage? A fat-free fudge that doesn't let you down in the flavor department? Like he's just had that chambered for years and that's all he wants.
Airing his grievance at the fat-free fudge department.
Yep.
And I love like how genuinely threatening a lot of these advertisements were. Like the giant Kent. Oh my God.
Yeah. Or it looked like the Marlboro Man, but it was like a Duff man.
Duff cowboy.
And just how he just slams his bottle down, it's like squashing them underneath it. It's really quite gruesome. I mean, there's no blood, but you're like, oh.
As a kid, I always took that to supposed to be mimicking like putting out cigarette butts, I think is the joke.
Yeah.
But I'm not
That makes
positive.
sense.
I mean, he could just be crushing things.
Maybe it was originally the Marlboro Man. They're like, no, we're going to get in so much trouble for that.
Yeah.
Well, there is a sign gag later. Well, I mean, it wasn't going to be like, but where it's like 50 million cigarette smokers can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And I love the Zip Boys as well. You know, the advertisements come to life that are then burdened by their oversized heads.
Yeah, and just the call back in the background where they're just wheeling their heads around in trolleys.
Where you going at this hour?
Hey, don't you scratch up them heads.
Oh, fucking fantastic.
Oh, sorry, I just like the other Homer line of, not a church or a library to offend the eye.
Yeah. And this is a segment that, it seemed to include Kang and Kodos in a cameo role, breezed by, and I think this is how you do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to do it if none of the three are about aliens. Yep.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other notes about 50-foot eyesores?
Nope.
Oh, was it actually Paul Anka?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Guest star of this episode.
Good.
Good for him.
Yes.
He did life.
All right, and the final segment, which was the middle segment, Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. Now, again, I did not see Nightmare on Elm Street till I was like in my 20s, and this absolutely works without knowing that. They explain the rules, they don't assume you've seen the movie before, and it's explained and told well, and I love it.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite segment.
Yeah, this is really good.
Because when I was a kid, this one scared the crap out of me. Like, burned Willie, all, still talking with his flaming eyes, and he's just a skeleton, just in their dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got me, man.
Well, Jordan, you mentioned the whole bloodness of the Duff Beer guy crushing those people before. Same here. There's not blood in this.
Yeah.
Yet that shot of Martin is fucking horrifying.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, all he's doing is screaming and holding his arms up, but it's pretty scary.
I think it's because you see it and he looks very pale and his eyes are kind of bulging and everything. But yeah, it would be horrifying. But yeah, I just thought about it. That's where the inspiration, when they did the American remake of The Ring, and that's what they kind of look like. They're all like screeching in terror and all gaunt and gross.
And terrifying, even though there's just a dead person.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't want to really be around it. I would find that terrifying, to be honest.
I also found the animation style at the beginning where Bart's having the Disney-esque dream in a separate way as impressive. It's almost like when Finding Nemo came out and then, Studio Ghibli did Ponyo to be like, we could do underwater traditional sound. It felt like the animators wanted to show, all right, I know we're all about this CG, but look, the cartooning is still good. Because I remember at the time, it actually deepened my appreciation of, and it's silly to realize this, but you have to realize everything at some point. Cartoons are different. Even all the cartoons that are flat have different styles to them, and they can do minor things to Bart's face that even though he's still 2D and they use the same color yellow, now he looks like a Disney Bart. And this was, of course, long before they had 14 different versions of The Simpsons lined up at the door, Minions, Simpsons, and whatever. So in a quiet way that like the 3D Homer sort of steals the thunder of, Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace has an amazing cell animated segment with Bart playing with Santa's Little Helper that I just love.
Yeah.
Oh, the painted backgrounds on it are gorgeous.
It made me want painted backgrounds for the whole series or something, a Criterion collection.
Yeah.
Release the painted cut. But yeah, I love this as well because, you know, you're talking about the different styles of animation and stuff. And, you know, The Simpsons really set out to be different from Disney animations, and to the point that they sent an episode back for reanimation because they thought the characters acted too rubbery, like in a Warner Brothers or Disney style. And so seeing Bart and Santa's Little Helper start out like that, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't reality. Something weird's going on here.
Yeah.
Simpsons do not stretch or squash, which is really unusual in animation. That was a big deal at the time. Yeah.
And they've changed it now. Like so many times it happens. Like that Games of Thronesy episode.
Oh yeah,
the Surfsons. They have Aslan in there, and he looks like he was pulled out of Disney.
Really weird,
very strange cartoon lion.
Yeah, but I still remember as this one being very affecting and like as a reference point for a lot of people that, this was when Treehouse of Horror was fucking scary.
It was metal, there's scary parts for like a 13, 14-year-old for sure.
Yeah. Well, Willie's a perfect casting for Freddy Krueger as well.
Yeah.
Don't touch Willie. Good advice.
Good advice.
The smarch and the 13th day of the 13th month.
Oh, the build up to Willie's death is fantastic. You know, replace the doorknobs? Nay. Replace the fire extinguishers? Now, this is a free service. No.
And the line even before the 13th day and the 13th month, so it's an unbroken chain of gold, solid gold, because the line before that is, oh, kids, we must tell you a story that will put your fears to rest. It's a tale of murder and revenge from beyond the grave.
Even before that, when they run in and they say, Mom, Martin died at school today. I don't see what that has to do with groundskeeper Willie.
All the kids comparing stories as well. Got me with the hedge cleaver. He ran his floor buffer over me.
I love the Skinner coming from behind the tree. There's no mystery about Willie. Why, he simply disappeared. Let's have no more curiosity about this bizarre cover-up.
Just amazing dialogue.
It's just batting practice. They're just, killing it.
We were talking about off-screen jokes as well of the, like, no, not into the kindergarten. And,
even higher pitched children screaming.
Yeah.
I like Bart waking up terrified. Homer yelling, "Oh my God, Bart, is that you? Yes. Take out the garbage."
But even like, it's got all these jokes and it still keeps a perfect parody because even the music of Nightmare on Elm Street is parodied in this one. They just have that, and to great effect, I think. It's still really creepy.
No, absolutely. Like, the soundtrack in this one is amazing. Like,
Willie's actually, like, the song coming out of his spider body is very ominous.
Yeah. Oh, and again, the Foley, the way the spider legs, you can hear them. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Foley makes things good.
I mean, bagpipes are sort of ominous in the best of times, I feel. Like
True.
It's
any instrument that drones by default.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know how you practice getting good at the bagpipes without having a soundproof room or something. Like, I couldn't imagine any neighbor would put up with that.
Also, definitely go on a playlist of Maggie Suddenly Saves the Day. I think this was an early example of those.
Yeah, this one, it's not like when she's sniping mobsters out, in a canon episode,
but you can see how this is where what will eventually get out of hand. This is where it started.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it totally fits her character and ability. She's in a dream. She plugs it with a pacifier. Boom. They sit on the moon, drink lemonade.
The end.
Yeah. Oh, I love that shot as well of them like orbiting the couch moon before. Oh,
that felt felt like an homage to something, and I can't put my finger on it at all.
Probably
I felt
Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
The Little
maybe.
Prince, maybe? Potentially.
Yeah, possible.
maybe. Yeah,
or
that's
that
a good
old
point.
cartoon where the rocket hits it in the eye.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the Journey to the Moon, is it? Or whatever
Méliès,
that
I
old-
think. Georges
yeah.
Méliès.
Méliès.
Oh,
That
wow.
nerdy enough for you?
But yeah, there's also a reference, or what I feel is a reference to Terminator 2 when Willie falls into the sinky sand
Yeah.
and starts
Yeah.
changing into all these different forms. Is very
Yeah.
Death of the T-1000 in T2.
Such a
Well, not death. Anyway.
and such like creative use of like using Willie as a groundskeeper as a threatening thing, and all of his
Yeah.
kills have to be somewhat groundskeepery. Except Martin's, actually. He just
Yeah.
choked him with his tongue. Just going to ask our Latin expert how the Latin held up.
Oh, well, I mean, they use
Single
present tense.
words.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's correct. But
Yeah.
I mean, you've mastered a dead tongue. How about a live one? Like, that was really good. I like those kind of puns. Because they're very like those 70s, 80s horror movies where the killer would still have a great line to say when he would murder you. Yeah, like, really good. Really good.
Actually, the one that never clicked with me before this viewing was Compost Mortem.
Yeah, I know.
That's a good one.
Very good.
Willie, and that was straight parody. That's definitely got to be because Freddy never does a kill without a pun about what he killed you with. It's like compulsory.
That's right, bitch.
yeah. But you were talking about the bread and butter of Simpsons being the simple act of undermining someone or making a bold assertion and then the world takes the wind out of your sails with the opposite happening.
Yeah.
And it just clicked for me how brilliantly they're able to set up so many at the end here where it's like Lisa's undermined because she thought she would be able to help. No, she's going to get them killed. Immediately, Willie is in power. No, he's not because a baby can beat him. Everything's fine. No, it's not because Willie's still alive. That doesn't matter because he left his gun on the seat. It breaks it down every rung of how you could undermine the plot until there's nothing left. And that's when Simpsons is really doing what it does best.
Oh, that's what I was trying to think of with the music, because they almost perfectly mashed the Benny Hill theme with the Simpsons theme. Here
Yes,
as
it's
well.
a great mashup. It's hard. You at first go, which theme is it? Oh, it's both. Wow.
Yeah, because it's like, really good. I could dissect it for ages, but probably not that fun to listen to. Any other notes about this segment?
I just have written down, boo! Boo!
Again, Dan Castellaneta's performance. Make scary noises, but not really.
I also love the, I guess, just the dedication. Like, Willie, there's no reason for him to be in that job unless he really loved it, right?
Yeah.
Because he's unappreciated, he's underpaid, but the sheer fact, like, he dies, burns to death, and then he sweeps himself up and puts his ashes in the trash, and I think that's great. That's just a good little detail.
Well, it makes me think, some people go through horrible things just because they're polite. And same with Willie, help me. Please, Mr. Van Houten has the floor.
How do
He
you like the idea of Milhouse having 2 spaghetti dinners?
in one day. Yeah, he's just like, he sits down patiently and waits. It's like, oh, come on, this is pressing matter, guys. Kind of burning.
I love that he starts screaming, and it takes a few seconds for everyone to just like turn and look at him and be like, what is this interruption? What is going on?
Do you have any other notes about this segment, Swaim?
Yeah, the spaghetti dinners line became mythic in my family. We all said that very often over the years, in no particular context. Just of having 2 spaghetti meals in one day. It's that minor pause. Well, a man burns to death. And then the other line I really love is in football terminology, Krusty basically describing the action of someone on the line taking the ball from the quarterback, running it, and then passing it back to the quarterback, which is like a trick play. And then he says, but with a slight twist, you throw it to me. Newt Rockne called it the forward pass. It's the most basic possible action you can take in football.
Oh, good shit.
Yeah.
That's you guys?
Yes.
Then it's time to rank this thing. And Michael, your turn to go first.
Oh, boy. Well, it's definitely up there. Okay, so silver, gold, cubic zirconia territory. Sheesh. Do you have it handy what I gave last time? I think I did give a CZ.
Yeah, cubic for Lisa the Greek, yeah.
Lisa the... Well, Oof. I don't know why my brain said the word gold, but I want to have sort of consistency with my previous appearance. So I would say it's got to be a cubic, because if Lisa the Greek is a cubic, honestly, in retrospect, I think Lisa the Greek should have been a shiny gold for me personally. And this is a true cubic, but definitely cubic.
And yeah, I got to agree. It's one of these ones where I don't know how much I'm going to be able to separate the nostalgia, but the fact that I can come back into this, fucking, what year is it? 25 years after its original air, find new stuff, still be entertained and still be wowed on different levels. And this is what Treehouse of Horror is all about for me. And yeah, if the weakest one is Homer 3, then fucking hell, what an amazing show. BT.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, I still pulled something new from this, and it's always hard to tell what is your nostalgia clouding. But we've had, Treehouse of Horrors, like the Genesis Hub and stuff like that really weren't as great as we remembered. It's always hard to tell. You'll never be able to remove yourself from your own childhood entirely. But no, I'm going to go. My rambling is basically getting to the point of cubic zirconia. I really love this one. I think the weakest part was Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores, and that's still a gold to me. So for me, it's gold, cubic. Overall, that is a cubic.
And Jordan finished off.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a cubic as well. Look, I think you kind of have to rank a Treehouse episode and a regular episode almost differently. Like, they're not quite they're not the same. They're not the same format. They're not, but you like them for different reasons. Yeah. And this one is like, if we're talking about cubic being like the iconic, like, this is the one that The Simpsons, if you're going to watch The Simpsons, if you're going to watch a Treehouse, you would watch, this is probably a good contender, or you'd watch the one with the Raven and things like that as well, because it encompasses the concept of Treehouse so well that I think, this is absolutely a stellar episode.
Awesome. All right. Unanimous cubic zirconia. We are giving this episode the Simpsons Index Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence.
Is that what it's called now?
That's what it's called now.
Okay.
Should it be for Halloween the Field of Hexcellence?
Oh,
nice.
Outstanding bereavement in the Field of Excellence.
Oh, shit.
Now you're on the trolley.
Streets ahead. All right. And in that classic era so far, this will be the fourth unanimous cubic for Treehouse of Horrors.
Wow.
It'll also be joining Treehouse of Horror 2. That's with the monkey's paw and eating too much candy and burnt
monkey's paw.
Homerbot.
Yeah.
And Treehouse 4 with the paintings, Gremlin on the bus.
Yes.
Good one.
They're dogs and they're playing poker.
And also Treehouse of Horror 5, which, is still my favorite, with the shinning, the time toaster.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, good
The
stuff.
shinning might be my all-time favorite Treehouse segment, if they were all in a big pile.
Oh, it's so good.
Although, actually, I guess I have a thing for evil houses, because I do have a big soft spot for the evil house that decides to eat itself rather than live with the Simpsons. Very old Treehouse,
That dream house.
That one was close to being unanimous cubic. We had one lone descendant, Claire.
Oh, dear.
To be fair, I do appreciate a criticism that the Raven is a little bit muddy.
Yeah.
But I loved it anyway.
Well, if you don't like classic literature, then fine.
All right, guys. Well, that about wraps up our 8th Treehouse of Horror-thon. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
And if people want to listen to more of your stuff, where can they find you?
I tend to plug everything exactly once, so you won't get spammed on my Twitter account. That's @Swaim_corp, CORP. And I post jokes as well, so it's not solely plugs. So that'll lead you to everything. But if you want to listen to more podcasts, you can find all those by searching Small Beans wherever you get your podcasts.
And in Small Beans, so many of my favorite podcasts within that banner, man. one-upsmanship and frame rates.
Oh,
and
thank you so much.
Being able to follow the I think that was a part of our bonding, was a lot of the cracked stuff that have since the diaspora of them going out into the world, but being able to follow them and see the legends, it's so great. I'm so happy that things are still going along and you're still being able to produce a bunch of great content. I'm just a big fan.
Thank you so much.
I'm not going to say stan. I don't like the implication of stan. I feel that's a bit creepy.
Well, you're the one who brought it up.
Yeah,
so
I know. That's what I'm saying.
That...
Because you know what I was thinking about earlier today? You don't hear fanboy anymore or fangirl. Yeah. Well, maybe fan is just out of favor, but I want to bring it back. I like fan. Fan is better.
I think the kids say simp now. Or that's what they yell at me on the street. I think that's what they mean.
Yeah.
And BT, where can they listen to more of us?
They can listen to more of us on our Game of Thrones podcast, Thrones of Game. This is the Game of Thrones podcast that dares to watch the series backwards. I've already seen the entire show, but Elliot Jay O'Neill had never seen a single episode until we started watching in reverse order. Gives us a unique perspective on the series, see where it all went wrong, and also just... Hey, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, no one else is making content because the show is over, but we only just begun when the show ended.
Yes.
It's a good way to watch it. It will get, you'll start with some of the worst episodes of the entire series, so that's actually pretty fun. I mean, you won't know what the hell's going on, but it'll be fun in a different way.
A lot of Game of Thrones fans didn't know what was going on anyway. So.
That's true.
And some of your favorite characters will still be alive at the end, so yay.
Oh, yeah, as we say, it's the show where dragons put buildings back together and heads get reattached.
Right.
What was Phil's line? And then Bronn jumps into a window. Bran.
Bran, not
Oh,
Bronn.
where he does the like the 80s ninja thing where they jump backwards into the tree. Like, yeah, that's great.
Not for a long time, though.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Yeah, that does it for the Simpsons Index. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, I thought that was the end point.
No, it's like I'm saying goodbye, and you're doing your last goodbye thing.
Oh, like a human?
Sort of.
No. Keep this. I demand you keep this. I'm not doing it again.
And thank
This
you.
is the
and
end.
thank you, BT.
Ahoy, hoy.
Later, Jordan.
Goodbye. Yeah, that's what people. Yeah. Sorry, I got scrambled. I was.
All right.
Yeah.
Put me on the spot.
Has everyone's
Burn
like,
it all down.
politeness simulators just malfunctioned
Yeah.
except for mine?
See, but I'm still here. Like, I can stay for a bit, right?
You're leaving the podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill. That's all the mustard in the haunted house. Thank you for listening to the Simpsons Index podcast, which is also an online spreadsheet available at thesimpsonsindex.com. You can chat to us online at facebook.com/thesimpsonsindex or at Simpsons Index on Twitter or Instagram. Now, there's no bonus scenes for this episode, so we'll catch you next week.